Hey, Divine Ones, it is Jerome Braggs, the intuitive healer that teaches you how to heal yourself and live a truly well and delicious life through the practice of self-love. Today's video, we are going to be talking about a very important topic, which is basically why when a disease shows up in your body, it's really a signal that you are energetically malnourished. And oh, one second, I forgot to plug in my microphone here so you can hear me a little better. Give me one second. All right. So, one of the things that really, inspired this video was I've been getting a lot of questions about healing. A lot of people have been asking me about healing and about wellness, particularly about healing themselves from, some type of chronic illness or chronic disease that they're experiencing. And a lot of, questions about my own healing journey. And I wanted to just really touch on something that's probably the most important thing in your healing journey to understand. Like, no matter what your particular situation is or your health challenges, no matter what the medical name of it is, whether it's diabetes, whether it's AIDS, whether it's cancer, whether it's kidney failure, whether it's, chronic fatigue syndrome, whether it's whatever it is, right? And hey, all of you all that are joining, thank you for joining me. Whatever that is, whatever that particular, manifestation of illness really is, it doesn't matter what it is. What it's really doing is it's indicating something. Illness is an indicator. It's not a punishment. It is not something random. It is not your body betraying you or failing you. It is literally your body being your best friend. And I know this seems very, counter to what we've been taught and counter to how we usually think about illness or disease, because we usually think when an illness or a disease shows up that it's something that we need to go to war with, or it's something that, immediately we need to, fight, and it's not our friend. It is against us and we need to be against it. And that's not really the case. When an illness shows up, it is literally one of your body's way of communicating to you. It's trying to love you and bring you back home to yourself. And this is the way that it does it. It's trying to communicate that you're disconnected from yourself and you need to come back and reconnect. And I've done many videos where I've talked about this before, but illness is basically an indicator. Just like the gas light that comes on in our cars, if you have a car and you're driving your car, and you've been driving it for a while and you've not been fueling it up and it's running very low on fuel, one of the things that happens is when it gets really low on fuel, and what I mean by really low on fuel is when it's getting to the point where if you continue to drive it for too much longer, it's not going to have fuel to run and it's going to shut down on you, right? When it gets close to that point, the gas, before it gets to that point, right, before it, because beautifully the car designers created this little signal in there so that you don't just run your car completely to the end where it doesn't have, where you don't, you're driving all of a sudden and you don't know, and then your car breaks down and you don't have a clue why it's breaking down. So in order to give you a heads up, they created this signal that lets you know you've been driving for too long on low fuel and you need to stop. And you need to stop and as soon as you can, go fuel up your car with gas, right? And if you ignore that signal and you keep driving, your car is going to shut down, right? But there's a signal that comes on that says, hey, this is, you're running way too low on gas and you've only got about, a few more miles to go before you completely run out and your car shuts down. The same thing happens with the body. The body was created by the soul to house the energy of itself, which is love energy, which is source energy, which is God energy. When you speak about love, when I'm talking about love, I'm literally talking about the energy of the soul. I'm literally talking about the energy of source. That is what it is. You are made of source energy and love energy. You are made of God energy, and you are made to experience it. You are made to experience it throughout your life on a consistent basis, on a daily, consistent basis. And you need this energy. This energy is literally your fuel. That's what fuels the body. So the soul created the body, and it created it with a beautiful signal system. They have many different signals to let you know when you're running low on fuel. But when you're running really super low, to the point where if you just go a little bit more longer without running, without, fueling your body with your soul's energy, your body's going to completely shut down. The signal that shows up is illness. Illness is literally the signal from of the body to signify that we are running too low on our soul's energy, which is love energy. That's all it is. And basically what it's telling you is you're energetically malnourished. You don't have the energy within you. You don't have enough energy in your body. You're not getting enough of your soul's energy. You're not getting enough love energy within you, in your body, for your body to sustain its wellness. And you've been doing that for so long that your body can't be well. And so it's malnourished. It's literally energetically starving. It is starving for love. That is literally what disease is when it shows up in the body. It is a signal that you are literally starving for love. And you need to stop what you're doing. And what I mean by what you're doing is probably how you're believing, what your patterns, what your habitual thought patterns are, specifically what your habitual thought patterns are about yourself, what your vibrational patterns are, which means how you're usually emotionally feeling, and your behavioral patterns. Like, you need to look at all of that and change that and shift that, so that those because what those patterns are doing are draining you of love. They're draining you of your soul's energy. And instead, you need to stop and do things and develop belief patterns and energetic patterns and behavioral patterns that fuel you instead. And so here's something I'm going to say that really is so important to understand in your wellness journey, or if you're trying to heal yourself, your healing journey. This is something that we're not taught in our schools, and we're not taught in our traditional medical system. But this is the number one factor to understand if you are really going to be well and if you are really going to heal. Thing to understand is what drains your spirit drains your body. And what fuels your spirit fuels your body. This is a huge understanding. So let me go back to the first part. What drains your spirit drains your body. If something is draining you, if something drains your soul, right? If something is, stressing you out, if something is making you not frustrated, if something making you frustrated, if something is making you feel like you just don't enjoy your life, if something is making you feel overwhelmed, if something is making you feel violated and disempowered, that is a drain on the spirit. Those things are not benign to your health. This is something that we have been taught to divorce how something feels energetically and emotionally from what's going on physically. And what I'm here to show you, and what I teach, and what all the healers and the sages have known in the past, since humanity started, when you go to the witch doctors and the healers and things like this, is what we've known forever, is that the energy and the body are directly connected. They are correlated. So what happens to your energy is going to happen to your body. And so what's happening here is, if it's literally draining your spirit, it's draining your body. It's literally draining the health from your body. And you can't prolong that. You can't have that prolonged without something manifesting in your body to show you that, to reflect how drained you are. Right? And so this is what I say, why you manifest illnesses. You don't necessarily create them. This is when somebody says, and this is why a lot of people were so resistant with the idea of that you create your entire reality, and you manifest. What I say is you manifest it instead of you create it, because the word create has a connotation that it was something that you preferred, that's something that you asked for, and it was something that you intended. And so nobody would intend for a disease. Nobody would prefer to have illness. I definitely didn't when I manifested mine. I didn't necessarily, I wasn't intending for that to happen for me. I wasn't preferring for that to happen for me, but I did manifest them nonetheless. What I mean by the difference between creation and manifest is this world. What manifests in your life is always a direct reflection of what you're holding in your internal state, what's going on in your energy field, and what's going on in your belief system, what's in your consciousness, and what's in your vibration. Whatever manifests in your reality is a direct reflection of that somehow. Is a direct reflection. It can only be that. This is a lot of people call it the law of attraction, but what it really is the law of mirroring. And what it basically is you receive and you manifest. You receive and you manifest it as a mirror to what you're believing and what you're feeling, especially what you're believing and what you're feeling about yourself. So if you feel drained and you feel not enough and you feel afraid and you feel violated, you're going to manifest a reality that's a mirror of that makes you feel more violated, that makes you feel more not enough, that makes you feel more afraid, that makes you feel more unsafe, and that makes you have a reason for feeling that way, right? And so understanding all of that, if your spirit is drained, it's going to drain the health of your body, because your body is directly connected with your spirit. And excuse me. So this is not benign, and this is in our culture. We live so many lives that drain our spirits. We don't do work we really enjoy. A lot of us don't have relationships that are very fulfilling. A lot of us don't feel really good about ourselves. We don't really fully appreciate all aspects of ourselves. We have some aspect of ourselves that we're rejecting, or we're ashamed of, or we think is less than or not enough. We're not, we don't have a lot of fun every day. I was on an interview. I did an interview for a podcast yesterday, and we were talking about this very concept. And I was telling him that, there's two aspects to your body. And this is something that, again, we're not really taught. We're not taught this in our schools, and we're not taught this really anywhere in any of our kind of systems, our dominant systems or institutions. But you have two parts to your body. We are taught that we only have one part, and that's the biological part. That's the physical flesh and bone part to the body. That we are taught that that's all that exists, and that's all that's real. And so we only focus on, when we're talking about, our wellness and things, we focus on it from the biological aspect. So that's basically, we focus on what we're eating, we focus on getting enough sleep, we focus on getting rest. Those things are important, and they definitely, can attribute to the well-being of your body or the illness of your body. But they are not the biggest part of your body. And those aspects, those biological things that we do, attribute to probably maybe 10% to less than that of your overall health. Because the biggest part of your body is your energy. It's the non-physical part of your body. So this is the physical part of your body, and then you have a non-physical part of your body, which is your energy body. And your energy body is bigger than this part. It's bigger than what you see here. It expands way out further than that. And I like to say it's really like, if you think about it like an iceberg. So, you see that the tip of the iceberg is what you see, right? And it could be big. It could be, to scale. It could be a very large thing. But the largest part of the iceberg is usually what's under the water. And it's what you can't see. And it's the largest part. And this is the exact same thing with us. This part that you see, the physical part, is the tip of the iceberg. And it's probably not what I've usually, when I'm tuning into other people's energy, what I'm usually finding is this part is only probably about 5% of your being or less. Probably at most, it's 5%. That means there's 95% of your being that you're not even seeing. And that part is your energy. And I like to call it, that's your energy body. So that is literally the largest part of you. Now, this part that you can see, the physical body, the biological aspects of you, it has needs, right? It needs to eat, it needs to sleep, it needs to drink water. right? It has to, those are things that it needs those things to kind of function and to be well. Your energy body has needs too, and it needs to be fed too. And if it's not fed, if it gets starved, just like if you starve your physical body, your physical body, it has a detrimental effects on the health of your physical body to starve. Like your body will start to break down, it will manifest illnesses, and if you starve it for too long, it will die. Same thing happens with the energy, your energy part. If you're starving the energy body, if you're starving it, you're not giving it you're not nourishing it, you're not feeding it, you're not fueling it. It's going to break down. This part, the biological part, breaks down as well, and it starts to get sick as well, and it will die as well. And the signal that it sends you, but again, disease is not the first signal that it sends you to let you know that you're starving. The same thing happens with the biological body, right? So the biological body sends you physical senses to let you know that it's being malnourished. So if you're not getting enough water in, right? Water is a nourishment for the physical biological body. If you're not getting enough water in, what happens? You start to get thirsty, right? And that's the signal you need to drink some water. You need to get some water in because you've been depriving yourself of enough water that your body needs. So your body will send you a signal, a loving signal. It's not punishing you by being thirsty. It's not betraying you by being thirsty. It's communicating to you that you need some water. Right? And so what do? We go drink some water. If you don't listen to that first signal when you get thirsty, what ends up happening? You get dehydrated. Right? And then if you're dehydrated and you stay dehydrated for too long, what ends up happening after that? That's when your body starts to start breaking down. That's when illnesses start to show up. That's when you can have a stroke. That's when, you have all these other things that come with body dehydration when your body starts to break down, right? And what happens? How do you fix those? Right? How do you heal yourself from those? You drink water. And you get yourself in enough water. Now, when you're starving, there's a higher level of water. When you're dehydrated and you're dehydrated to where your body is starting to it's not functioning well, there's a higher amount of water that you need to get in than when you need to get in when you just initially had thirst. You can probably drink just 2 cups of water when you're just thirsty, and at that your body will be like, okay, we're back to normal, we're fine, we can operate off of this, we have what we need. When you're dehydrated and you're passing out and you're having strokes, you need to now change your life to where you're not dehydrating yourself anymore, and you get in. Now you really focus on, okay, now I need to drink like a gallon of water a day. It's a different level of what you need to get in when you're starving than when you're not. The same thing goes for food biologically, right? And stay with me because I'm going to get to the energetics here first, but I want to make sure you really understand this because this is not really being taught to us. This is not really taught to us in a way in any place. So I'm really trying to teach you this in a way that you will really understand this. So same thing happens with food. Your body sends you a biological signal first, right? So if you haven't gotten enough nutrition in food wise, your body will send you a signal. And what's the signal? I'm hungry, right? It's just, you'll have hunger pains, right? Now, if you don't listen to the hunger pains and you go and you prolong, the period of time before you get something to eat and you get the right nourishment in your body, what happens? Your body starts to send you severe hunger pains. You're starving now, right? You starve. And starving pains are different than just being hungry. It's a whole different level. Like when you've gone 3 days without eating, it's a whole different signal that the body sends you when you've just gone, 12 hours without eating. It's a different signal. And so what happens when you don't listen to the starving and you go for a prolonged? Now, mind you, there might be, I'm talking about not listen to, but there might be situations out there where people just can't get access to food, right? But just go with me for this, with this analogy here. So if you don't listen to that signal and you go for too long without eating, what ends up happening is your body starts to break down because it's not getting in food. And it starts to break down, and it can only go for so long before it completely shuts down, and then you make your transition, right? And so how do you fix the things that are happening with like you when like one of the things happens is your belly will be distorted. It'll come out when you're starving. You lose a lot of weight. You can't your muscles start to deteriorate. You don't have any muscle development. You can't move. Like there's all these things that happen when a person is starving. How do you heal that? You give them food. You give it to them consistently, right? They have to eat a lot, right? That's how you heal. You give them what the body is asking for. You don't just like if a person is starving, just giving them sleep and keep making them go to sleep doesn't fix the starving. You have to give them what the body is asking for, right? So this is a very important lesson right here, and I'm going to tie it in right now with the energetic piece. But you have, in order to heal the manifestations that appear from starving yourself, and however you're starving yourself, whether you're starving yourself from water, you're starving yourself from food, or you're starving yourself from sleep, in order to heal that, you have to give yourself high doses of what their body is asking for. Same thing with sleep. If you starve yourself from too much sleep, first thing that happens when you're not getting enough sleep, you get tired, right? You get sleepy. If you don't listen to that signal, you start to have sleep deprivation, right? And you really start to get tired. Your body can't really function well. It's slowing down. It's really trying to get you to sleep. You don't listen to that. If you don't listen to that, then that's when the body starts to break down. There's a whole list of biological things that happen when the body is starved of sleep and it doesn't get enough sleep, right? It needs that. So the body, when it is starved of what it needs, like sleep, water, food, the first thing it sends you is some type of biological signal that says, hey, please give me the nourishment right here of what we need. And if you don't listen to that, and it doesn't just punish you, like it doesn't go into dysfunction right away. It takes a while before the dysfunction shows up, but it gives you enough time to stop and feed it and fuel it with what it needs. So let's go to the energy body. So the biological body sends biological signals to let you know first that you are starved in some area. When your energy body is being starved, when it's being malnourished in some place, it doesn't send a biological signal, it sends an emotional signal. So again, I want to make sure you understand, because you have two bodies, they operate in kind of different ways. So the signal that your physical body sends when you are malnourished and starving in some area, it will send you a biological signal like thirst, like hunger, like sleepiness, right? Your energy body, when it is starved, when you are starving it or malnourishing it from something that it needs, it's going to send you an emotional signal. And that emotional signal is going to feel like sadness. And that usually is a signal that you're not getting enough joy in your life. It will feel like shame. And that's telling you don't have enough self-appreciation, right? You're not getting enough appreciation in your life, which is a nourishment. It'll feel like stress. And that's telling you don't have enough ease and relaxation in your life. These are nourishments to your energy field, by the way. And what we're taught is that our emotional body is something we really don't need to pay attention to. Like, don't let your emotions run your life. Get over your emotions. And this is why this is really false, and why so many of us are so disconnected, and why so many of us are so ill. And it's not our fault, because we're not taught. It's not really a loving thing to do, to expect yourself to know how to do something you were never taught how to do. And many of us were not taught what our energy body is, how it speaks to us, and what's been happening for us. We're just not taught, and what that actually means. So we're taught that it's completely okay, right? And if you're angry, that's an emotional signal that there's something that you need to fill your energy body with love and respect, right? And so there's something, your energy body speaks to you through your emotions first, and if you don't pay attention to those, what usually will happen is some dysfunction will happen in your life first. So If you're not paying attention and you're sad, then something happens in your life that makes you, that stuff starts to break down in your life. Your relationships don't start to work well. Something happens with your money. Something happens, at your work environment. There's some type of dysfunction that will show up in your life, and basically your life won't work well. It's not working as well as it used to. If you don't pay attention to that, and if you go and prolong that for too long, that's when the illness shows up in the body. The illness shows up in the body as the last line of defense. It's not the first line. It's not the first thing that happens. It's you've been feeling this way for a long time. You've been draining your body of the energy that it needs. You've been starving it for a long time, and then the illness will show up as the last indicator to say, "Hey, stop. You need to stop what you're doing, and you need to nourish yourself. You need to nourish yourself." Now, again, I've taught this before, but I'm going to give this really quickly on this video. How do you find out how you need to nourish yourself when an illness shows up? How do you find out what it is that your body is starving for? Right? How do you find out how you've been, starving yourself? And then how do you find out what it is that it's asking for you to feed it? So here's a tried and true thing. And if you can't get this on your own, please reach out for help from me. You can book a session with me. This is exactly what I do with my clients. It's one of the things. It's not the only thing I do with my clients. But this particular thing is one of the things that I help clients do who are dealing with illness. My clients who are dealing with illness, this is one of the things that, I can help them do at a very deep way with my intuitive gifts. And that is one of the things is that you do. Sorry, UPS just dropped something off in my doorstep. So luckily they just left it, so I'm gonna continue with the video. But one of the things that happens is that you do is you want to get really in tune with yourself. Just take some deep breaths, get a pen and paper, and you want to just really ask yourself, how does this illness make me feel? How does it make me feel? And you want to look at two areas mainly. How does this make me feel physically? How does this make me feel emotionally? So, for example, when I had to do this for myself in my own healing journey, when I was looking at, how does HIV and AIDS, how did it make me feel? And physically, there wasn't really much that different that it made me feel physically. Like I felt completely normal as I usually would. I had the same amount of energy. I had the same amount of whatever physically. So I didn't really have a lot of physical symptoms with it, but I had a lot of emotional things with it. And the emotional things were I didn't feel attractive. I didn't feel lovable or wanted. I felt like something was wrong with me. I felt like I didn't trust my body anymore. I didn't trust it. It felt like that I couldn't trust that it could be completely healthy and well. I didn't trust it anymore. And so those were some of the feelings that I had with that. And when you look at that, when you get the feelings down and you get, how does this make me feel? You look at where in your life have you been feeling like that before? And how long have you been feeling like that? Where in your life have you been feeling these same feelings that you wrote down? And how long have you been feeling like that? Well, let's just stick with this one right here, right? So feeling not attractive. I have been feeling like that ever since I could remember, since I was at least 5 years old. And that was because I was always bigger than my peers. My body was always bigger. I was always thicker. And I was called chubby and fat, and I was teased a lot. And that made me feel like there was something wrong with my body. And that as I wasn't attractive. And as I was, my body wasn't lovable and it didn't belong. So I had been feeling like that for a long time. And not really trusting my body. Right. And I see some of you all's comments, and I'll get to some of these as well. If you have any questions, please put them in the comment section. I'll answer them here in this video in a second. But I have been feeling like that for a long time. And what those feelings did, so remember, you are love energy incarnate. You are literally the manifestation of love in physical form. And so when I felt like I'm not enough, when I felt like there's something wrong with me, when I felt like I'm not lovable, that was literally robbing me of love. That was literally disconnecting me from love. It was disconnecting me from the love of myself. Because how I viewed myself wasn't with love. I was never giving my own body love from me. Right? So it was depleted. It was drained of love for a long time. For a long time, I had been draining my body of love. And so the thing that it manifested to let me know that I was running so low on love. And the part of love that I was running low on was the feeling of being worthy. You know, worthiness is the feeling of unconditional appreciation, unconditional acceptance. It's the feeling of all being good with you. It's the feeling of seeing your own value and your own deservedness and your own belongingness and feeling your own belonging, that all of you belongs, right? When you don't feel that, you reject some aspect of yourself. You're shamed, so you feel like something is wrong with you. You feel like something is less than with you. And that is a withholding of love from you. That's literally a withholding of love. It's withholding love energy from yourself. And so I have been withholding love energy for myself, starving myself of love for a long time. And so AIDS was the manifestation of that. It was the indicator my body sent to me to say, you've got to stop living like this and start to change. And remember when I said, and when we were talking about the biological body, how do you heal the things that manifest when you've starved yourself from food or from water? You know, you have to get water in, you have to get food in. So my healing journey from HIV wasn't about me being vegan. It wasn't about me, taking these herbs, although those things helped. They helped a bit. The real healing came when I began to deeply nourish myself with appreciation. When I, instead of feeling wrong, there's something wrong with my body, I began to think my body is beautiful, that it's perfect as is, that nothing needed to change about it. When I stopped feeling like, you have to stop, in order to heal, you have to stop starving yourself and you have to start feeding yourself. And remember I said, when you're starving, you have to eat a lot. It's different than when you're not starving. When you're not starving, you don't have to eat as much. You're already satiated. Your body doesn't require as much food from you in order to fuel itself when you're not starving. When you are starving, you have to get in a lot. So I had to do appreciation work a lot daily, right? That was what my body was asking for. Appreciation, worthiness work a lot in order to heal myself. Right, kidneys was a different thing. One of the main things, and I don't want to take up too much time with this video, but like the message, how did it make me feel? Kidneys was about feeling drained and not feeling free, right? And so that's what the emotional thing was for me. That's how I had starved myself of love. Right? So freedom is an aspect of love. And I didn't feel free. One, because I didn't feel free to be myself. I was always suppressing aspects of myself, particularly in my sexuality, because I felt like, I was raised in a culture at the time that said to be attracted to the same gender as a man was wrong. It was not okay. And I wanted to belong. I wanted to be accepted. And so I suppressed that aspect of myself for many years. And what happens when you suppress an aspect of yourself, whether that's an aspect of your personality, whether that's an aspect of your sexuality, whether that's something, another aspect I suppressed was my intuitive gifts. I knew very young that, I could read energy and I could communicate with people on the other side, but I grew up in a very Christian and religious home and a very Christian and religious culture and environment, and that was not okay. And again, so I suppressed those things. I didn't express them. And what happens when you suppress some aspect of yourself, you don't feel free. You feel imprisoned, right? You may get belonging. You may get the approval of the people that you're seeking approval from, but you'll never feel free because you'll never feel like yourself. And freedom only comes when you feel like yourself, when you are really expressing all aspects of your being. And so in order to heal that, I had to begin to express myself. And to do it a lot, to express myself a lot. This is why I write a lot now. This is why I do a lot of videos. This is why you all see me do a lot of things, expressing and showing parts of my body, because these are aspects that I had to do because I was starving. This is me eating more. This is me eating more. Again, when you're not starving and you get yourself back to a place of wellness, and your body is satiated and it has what it needs, it has the nourishment that it needs to function very well, it kind of levels out. You won't, and this is why I tell people your healing journey will look a little different than your wellness journey. When you're healing, there's a lot more different things that you have to do, because you're trying to eat, you're trying to nourish yourself more, and you've got to get a lot in. When you've got enough in that your body says, okay, we got it and we're back to balance, then you kind of balance that out. And it's not like some of those things may disappear. You may not do some of those things, or you may not do them as frequently and as often, or with as much intensity. But again, when you're starving, you have to eat, and you need to eat a lot. You don't just, when you're starving, you don't just give a starving person, a cup of salad. A starving person who is really starving to the point where they're about to, if they continue to not eat for maybe a day or two more, they may die. That person has to eat a lot. You feed them a lot. And so when you're ill and you're diseased, that is telling you you need to feed yourself a lot. You need to nourish yourself a lot. And you will know what the nourishment is by, one, how do you feel? How does this make me feel? And what's the opposite of that? So the opposite of feeling not free was freedom. The opposite of feeling drained was feeling charged and invigorated. The opposite of feeling not lovable and unattractive was feeling attractive and lovable. And so I had to really get that energy and those thoughts in my body a lot. And I had to do things that elicited that feeling from me and that made me think like that a lot. That's how you heal. When you are malnourished, it is a signal. I mean, when a disease is showing up, it's a signal that you are malnourished. In order to heal yourself, you have to nourish yourself, and you have to nourish yourself a lot. And if you will ask yourself that question, you'll figure out how you've been malnourished. And if you can just see what the opposite of that is, you'll see what the nourishment is that your energy is asking of you to heal yourself. Now, again, if you need help with that, please book a session with me. This is exactly what I do in my intuitive healing sessions. If someone is experiencing an illness, I can help you tap in to your energy body and see what is the message behind this? Like, what is the message behind the illness? What is it asking of you? What's the nourishment it's asking you? And what is the plan that you need to develop for your life so that you can get that nourishment in, so that you can properly heal yourself? And that's all it is. Disease is not a punishment. It's not something to go to war against. So this is really something. So I'm going to read some of your. It's not something to go to war against. It's just an indicator. It's just an indicator, you guys. So I'm going to read some of your questions really quick. I'm only got about 1 or 2 more minutes, and then we're going to end this video. So someone says, I've been going through topical steroid withdrawal for almost 4 years, in bed for 3. My feet haven't healed. Am I prolonging my healing? Then I had a heart attack. So when you understand, well, first of all, my heart goes to you. Any type of illness is a lot to deal with. And I know both the emotional pain and the physical pain that comes with that. When you have multiple illnesses going on, and this is something that I had, so, if you all know my story, and when it started, I was diagnosed with several life-threatening illnesses and 2 terminal diseases, all at one time. And all of that was a signal that I was very, 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 very drained. I was very drained. I was very malnourished. And I'm not talking about food malnourishment. I'm talking about energy malnourished. I wasn't living a life I loved. I didn't love them. I wasn't loving myself. There was a lot in my life that was draining my energy. There was a lot. It was just drained in many different ways. And so when you have multiple illnesses going on, it's a sign that you're being drained in many different ways. And if you will do this practice that I gave you, it will help you see. Just go through each one of them on their own. Just get a piece of paper and dedicate it to each one of these things, right? So whatever the illness is, just one, each one by their own. How does this particular thing make me feel? How does this, and then another piece of paper with the second one, how does this particular thing make me feel? And you'll start to see, and as you write those things down, look at and get, it takes a level of getting really honest with yourself first, and allowing yourself to feel the honesty, because this is not always going to be the most comfortable thing to do, because it's a big awareness. But you're going to sit and you're going to say, wow, yeah, I've been feeling like this for a while. Maybe it makes you feel super tired, and and maybe you've just been tired of your life for a long time. you know Maybe it makes you feel super angry. Where else have you been really angry in your life? But look at that and look at, okay, so and that's telling you, okay, so this is how I'm robbing my energy. I can't feel like this anymore. These feelings are not benign. These feelings are not benign. They rob me of my energy. What's the opposite of these feelings? This is how I have to start to live my life. I've got to live my life. If it's anger, maybe the opposite for you is ease. Maybe it's joy. If it's being drained, you have to feel rested and charged. And this is how you're being asked now to live your life, because that's what nourishes you. That's what nourishes your energy. And so this is that's it. So try that. And again, if you can't get any clarity on that, I would be honored to work with you. Just book a session with me, and we can go into that very deeply. One last question. I have Lyme, Crohn's, and chemical-induced lupus due to all the drugs doctors pumped into me. I stepped away from that, and I healed myself from means you are stating here. I am in remission now and have been mostly well the last 4 years. I went to dying to thriving. Yay! As a witness, this stuff works, and that's another witness. Nourishing your energy is, again, it's the path to wellness. And the thing that nourishes your energy is to get love in. And I've done many videos to talk about what love energy actually is. It's not just affection. As I've talked about in this energy now, it may be love energy is ease, it's freedom. It's the feeling of joy. It's the feeling of worthiness, which is appreciation and acceptance. It's the feeling of empowerment and feeling safe. And so, where are those feelings not really, where have you been robbing yourself of those feelings somehow in your life? Maybe that's in your relationship. Maybe that's in your work. Maybe that's in how you think about yourself and the thoughts you have. Maybe that's something else. But look at that. And then the healing journey is developing a plan to help you saturate your life with those things, to nourish yourself with those things, with those feelings. It's really about the feelings, because the energy is really about feeling. So, but what thoughts do you need to think so that you can feel those things? What behaviors do you need to elicit so that you can feel those things? What things in your life do you need to change? In your environment do you need to change so that you can feel more of that? That's the main part of your healing. Yes, diet can definitely help, but it's not the big thing. And this is why a lot of times when people change their health situation through their diet, the illness usually comes back later on, because you haven't addressed what the body is actually calling for. It's calling for you to nourish your energy. So I hope this has helped you all. I know this is a lot of information, and it's a lot more than what you've usually probably heard, but this is why I'm here, and this is why I'm doing the work that I'm doing. As always, you guys, I love you deeply. Now go love yourself. Bye.